What's up, Wolverines, and welcome back to Wellness for You. My name is Natalie, and I am your host. This episode, we're kind of taking a more chill approach for a What the Health episode. And to do so, I have a fellow student with me.
Hello, I am Elizabeth Powell. I also go by Lizzie, but I am the current news director for the UVU Review as a student. It's a student-run newspaper here on campus, independent source, so we can get to the juicy stuff. It's super fun, super fun job. It lasts a year long, comes with a scholarship. It's very cool, and I'm lucky to have the opportunity. And let's see. So I graduated with my undergraduate just this last May. Decided to keep coming. So I'm now currently working on my MBA. I wasn't going to the business school before, so it's kind of new over there and very intimidating when it comes to the finance side of the whole program. But I'm plugging at it and confident I'll get through it. My background was UX design, so also with Natalie. We were in the same major, and that's how we met. I worked on a documentary for my capstone project. It was a whole project with a website and books and all kinds of fun stuff with AR and filming, and that kind of got me interested in working here at the review. So yeah, so I kind of run this project for the year. There's about 50 people on staff, and I'm just kind of making sure people are making really cool content for the students in podcasting, broadcasting. And when I say broadcasting, that's just video on YouTube. Or also we have social media and the print newspaper that's hanging around and these little brackets on campus all over the place. So if you see one, pick one up. And also we have online articles. So there's a lot of like really fun stuff, and we're creating things daily. So check it out.
Perfect. Well, we're so happy to have you on. Today, I kind of wanted to talk about balance. On this podcast, we usually go through like very specific parts of wellness, whether that's nutritional, spiritual, mental. And today, I kind of wanted to do an overlying one because, as important as it is to focus on individuals, we do always kind of have to balance all of the above. And in the nicest way possible, I think Elizabeth here is a good example of that. As you are doing school, you are working, and as well as you are a mother.
That's right. I have 5 children. I do. And I am a single mom, so I got divorced before I started coming back to school in 2019, right before COVID. Such an epic
Good choice.
year going through a divorce and some health stuff and school full time, and then COVID happened. It was pretty. I mean, I almost comical. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah,
you kind of have to laugh about it, otherwise we'll go insane.
But also an opportunity, right, to kind of like reinvent yourself, like who you are. When things shut down and when we had to get like really creative about staying connected and stuff, so it was a really good opportunity to innovate and come up with new things, and I think that was inspirational. So I worked for a company that was 100% remote before COVID. And it was very cool to see the world kind of understand, do the same or approach the same things and same problems that we had within our company. And then that kind of like got validated. I guess the whole world had to do it. And so you're just like, oh yeah, like they're trying to solve these problems that we had. More people's heads were in it. And it even helped for, I think, a lot of, I mean, I don't know how often this is, but I know that like just having kids, I know a lot of single moms that were able to kind of go into the workforce because there are more ways to do that now. We can do things remotely, and that really opens a lot of doors, but there also comes with challenges. And so, like I said, you have to be creative sometimes to figure out how to keep those connections and solve problems as you're doing that. And yeah, so we're talking about being busy. Is that yeah? So yes, like I am really lucky that I have a supportive ex-spouse who is there to like pick up slack when I need to. I'm able to come on campus and work and do school. I do work full time for the company that I originally worked for before coming back to school. I'm a full-time UX designer. It's a startup company. we build an experience called the Rift, which is essentially a walkthrough augmented reality experience inside of a maze.
Oh,
And it's,
fun.
yeah, it's very fun. So it's like really kind of game design, but because it has the augmented reality piece that's very new still,
Yeah.
prototyping is interesting. It's a lot of like kind of dirty, like I want to say can't even think of the word right now. Agile.
Yeah.
Give 'em agile. So testing soon. There's something. So in UX design, we learned that if you're not, with new products, if you're not embarrassed while you're testing your new products, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So I think that, along with just a lot of really influential professors and stuff that like Dan Hatch and Emily Hendrick, we had a lot of I think we get a lot of validation for trying things, and it's okay if it's not perfect when it
Doesn't
first
work,
comes
yeah.
out, right? And that's like I think the biggest battle with having a lot of things going on is I really believe that burnout can come from focusing too much on perfection
Yeah.
on one area, right? And it's just like, and it's never ready. It's never going to be perfect, like exactly how you
Yeah.
want it. And you're scared to show people when it doesn't look good yet. But that's really like I think Brene Brown says, like, perfection's the enemy of the good.
Mhm.
We like bury things because we don't think they're ready, and then nobody sees them, and then we can't
Then nothing
iterate on
happens,
it
yeah.
and change it. Yeah. So that I think is a huge thing we learn from professors.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we can talk more about like different things I'm balancing.
Yeah.
But
So with like all of like these different things, would you say between work and school and like home life, how much of that is like compartmentalizing those different things, or how much do you like weave your different things? Because I mean, especially with something like UX design, you put it a lot in different aspects of your life, which is like really nice, but it's also like, do you feel it important to kind of keep work at work, school at school? Like, how much of that?
yeah, that's a really good question. Like, how much to integrate versus compartmentalize. So I think early on, I think I was just really excited about school and how the things that I was learning could apply to the different areas of my life. And I am a pretty firm believer that when it's kind of like practice everything, and when you learn something, you become better at everything. And that kind of belief system motivates me, because then I don't feel frustrated when something kind of takes a turn, right? So something kind of like, oh, actually, you're going to go spend time on this right now. Like, I'm not all frustrated because I'm like, oh, but how can I apply that to the thing I was thinking I needed to work on or whatever?
Right.
So I feel like I'm pretty adaptable that way. And that does come at a cost, right? Because when I'm willing to kind of adapt and move with the flow, then I do have to change. Like, okay, wait, I was planning on this thing, and maybe it's not getting done as well as I thought I was going to get done. So there is a little bit of give and take, and I definitely have times when I don't spend as much time on something that I planned, and then I'm like, well, this is going to have to do, or I pull an all-nighter and I get stuff done,
Yeah.
like that. I'm kind of a night owl, so I don't recommend that, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I
It
have had to pull my
depends.
good share of all-nighters to get through it for sure. That's due to a little bit of maybe also what I would like to call a superpower as well. I
Yeah.
have a little ADD going on the side.
Hyperfixation.
Yes. So it can be a superpower, but it can also be something that's like, can make you things feel overwhelming because
Yeah,
you're just like,
hindrances,
yes.
yeah.
But I have recently gotten some good advice that, and I wish I remembered the source exactly, but I think it was just a podcast. I'm a podcast fan. So, and I have lots of recommendations if you're ever like interested, besides yours that I tell everybody to listen to.
Yeah.
But one thing that was mentioned was for people with ADD specifically, and this could be a lot of people, honestly, but it resonated with me, is that sometimes when you get burnout or you get like not motivated to do something, it's because your goal isn't high enough. So like you are not setting a goal with something that's exciting enough for you, right? So if you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna set this goal of like, I'm gonna work out every day and do, and you're just kind of bored of it because you're like, well, whatever, blah,
Yeah, I did this
you won't do it.
yesterday,
Like, you're
and
not going to do it. So yeah, they're like, you'd make the goal something that you are like, like it's almost like impossible. So that you're like, but maybe it could happen. And then that can be like, ooh, I'm going to keep plugging away. And maybe if I could get that thing, I'd be so excited.
right.
And even if you don't get it, you're just like, well, I did awesome anyway.
You tried,
but
yeah.
again, but yeah, that's actually more. And I have found for me that's helpful. And that's the positive motivation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So kind of what I'm picking up is a lot of like self-forgiveness, which I
Yeah.
think
for sure.
a lot of us struggle with. Like it is hard where like we want to be perfect at everything all at once, but when you have like all this going, like especially when you get to college, like you are just trying to make your living with like your job, and you're working on so many different things, especially when you get in your specific major, like those big projects like stack up. And it's really like daunting, but being able to be scheduled with that flexibility of things happening, but also like forgiving yourself, like seeing what you've done so far, which like I say that I'm preaching to the choir of myself needing to do that too, where like you need to be okay with things not working out, because like the more you focus on like the things that are going wrong, I think the more things that go wrong, like it just kind of like, because that's all you're seeing, and so it kind of just like whirlwinds into it. But like you're saying, you kind of have to be like, hey, well, I tried and I did it, like maybe I didn't reach that goal, but like maybe I can figure out another goal to like make towards. So
for sure, I feel like life is what you focus on. 100%. And then it can help too if you set goals, at least maybe not so like attached to the metric so much as it is like to the feeling that you think you're going to get by achieving it. So that might actually come before you hit the goal, or it might come despite not hitting the goal. So if you kind of focus on like, okay, what is it that I'm like really wanting here? And if it's like to become more educated, or how do you not do that? Yeah. Like you can't fail at some of these goals. So for me, I think that's helpful. And then, I mean, and this could be a little bit with age, but having lived a chunk of my life where I was so afraid of messing things up and trying to be perfect and following like what I thought was like the right choices, and not necessarily questioning so much. I'm like, well, what do I want? Because I literally didn't know. It was just more like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And like following that, and then ultimately like failing at it. I'm like, oh, you can fail at something that you didn't even like intentionally sign up for, or be super excited about necessarily. So why not do the things that you were really excited about? And if you fail at those, like, even though it feels like it's gonna hurt worse, it actually doesn't. It actually is kind of a weird little trick where I just feel like you can't go wrong leaning into like everything you're excited about. So I'm like, I've had someone say like, I have two answers to this question, but if you're trying to decide between two things, like, I don't know if I should do this, or if I don't know if I should do this. At least for me, often in the past, it would be like, is it because like, I guess it would be, well, which one's the most optimal, right? Like, which one is the most right path for me, or which one is gonna give me the most without hurting the least, or something, yeah. So the optimal. But what if there is no optimal path? What if there's 10 of those, and they're all like, some things are good, some things are bad, and you have no idea of knowing like what is, even if you take a couple, like you take one and then you're never gonna know if one may or may not have been. We don't know. So where I think you win is pick the one that's most exciting to you. Like, which one do you feel like is just kind of lighting you up inside, making you feel like, ooh. And then that to me is like, you can't regret that. And then also when you fail, it's less painful because you find some way to love it anyway. And really, I just think I had something else to add on to that, but I completely spaced it. So We'll go back to that. If it's important, it'll come back up.
For sure. Yeah, like, yeah, I love everything you're saying. I feel like you're like taking the words right out of my mind. But
Ooh,
um,
mind picker.
it is like really important where you're chasing that like feeling, because a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, okay, what's gonna make us the most money? What are we gonna survive? And unfortunately, those are and have to be important things that we do think about, but it shouldn't be our main focus. And I talked about this previously on the podcast, like wealth and wellness, like they are tied, but like it doesn't have to be so like rigid, like everything has that we're taste. And something that you did say brought this up, a lot of this generation, you've probably heard this thousands of times, is that like dopamine chase. That's like what they talk about a lot, like with scrolling and stuff like that. But I kind of liked what you're talking about, chasing that feeling outside of social media and stuff like that. Like you are gonna go chase that dopamine in the experience you're going for. And as easy as it is to say that, saying like, what's the worst that can happen? Like they say no. Like it is kind of true. Like what is the worst that can happen? Like something that I used to do with a lot of my decisions is you kind of go through the scenario, you pick what your choice is going to be. Like, okay, what is like the absolute best case scenario that could happen? Like, if, you know, if I were to like say yes to this job, what could happen? Like, oh, I meet an amazing team. I get everything I want. Like I get my own team project, la da da da. Okay. What is the absolute worst thing that can happen? Like, oh, I don't get the job. They fire me. Like I lose my chances. Obviously this is a general example. And then you kind of like, okay, what is a plausible thing that could happen? And then you kind of go like, okay, well, like I get put with a reasonably good team. I do my best to do my job correctly. And like that kind of gives you that, I don't want to call it an expectation, but kind of calms your high or low expectations into like, all right, this is probably what's going to happen, and it's probably going to be something in the middle. I mean, obviously we always want to try to do the like higher end, but when you're focusing on that and those like feelings of that, it kind of gets you a little bit more excited. And then you kind of realize those fears sometimes are really irrational. Like I've gone through some of those and I'm like, some of that stuff like would never happen, but in my mind I'm like, what if?
Yeah. And you know, even, gosh, I mean, I've gone through some hard things. I have some friends that have gone through some hard things, and it's interesting to kind of zoom out and kind of look over the course of some time, and that even the things that seem like they're the worst things they're still figure outable, I guess is the word.
You can always dig yourself out.
Yeah, like I mean, I literally had so my boyfriend, he knew this kid in high school who ended up being involved in a gang fight and murdering somebody, and went to jail, in prison for years. But when I met him, he like had just gotten out, he had remarried, he's got kids, he has a life, he has a good job, he's like corrected, and he's super nice guy. Like it's an interesting scenario of just seeing that, like, imagine the worst possible thing happening to you, the worst scenario, absolute. And I'm not trying to minimize it at all. I'm just saying the worst thing you can still recover from, you can still have a great fulfilling life. And yeah, just some perspective on like what is actually the worst thing, and like maybe those, I guess, crappy scenarios that happen, they aren't so crappy. Those are like where we learn how to be better people. That's where the cracks happen and we let the light in, you know, like that's where we gain empathy for other people who are going through hard things. That's where we have opportunity to connect with other people and help them reach out and get to know people even better. So like, how many times do we see someone who's struggling and we would want to like help them, or someone who like does something brave, like stands up and like talks about something really vulnerable. Like we look at them and we think, oh wow, that's brave, or like that's really cool, and we're inspired by people like that. But then we think that for some reason, if we were to do that, it's just not, like, we're like, oh yeah, that's not cool. People are going to think that I'm needy, or people are going to think I'm trying to get attention, or people are going to think like whatever, or that just looks cringe, or, you know, like whatever. And I just don't think so. I think if it's coming from like inside of you, like that you're just like, I really feel like drawn to this for some reason, there's a little tug that's like, I feel like, then it's not wrong. Like, yeah, like do it. But I mean, these are all like very zoomed out kind of I tend to focus on like the thoughts behind the actions. But definitely when it comes to actually managing like the day to day of busy stuff. So I have a full-time job. I'm in the MBA program. It's part-time. They're night classes. They're manageable, but they're considered full-time, part-time. Like,
Right.
so yeah. So like, they're like, oh, you're doing graduate school, that we'll call for part-time, full-time. Cause it is pretty heavy load.
Right.
And then I also am working here at the paper. That's 20 hours a week. So that's another part-time job. And I have 5 kids. I have them 8 nights out of like 14. So that's kind of how that shook out. And all of that was like a lot more manageable until I started dating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you want to train wreck something, train wreck your schedule, get a boyfriend.
Yeah. Go out
No.
on dates. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It
but-
kind of does add a lot. Yeah.
But it feels like it. But actually, I do like really feel like, I mean, even though I'm joking, I feel like he's kind of like it's like, I'm going to say like, I can't even say the right word, but I'm thinking of chapstick, like chapstick when you have chappy lips or whatever. It's like everything's on fire. And then you're like, oh, but like hanging
it's
out
calming,
with the boyfriend's like, oh, like it's a little mini vacation every time I hang out. So it ends up being like a recharge, you know, and I think that's super important. I'm not really good at scheduling that, but because my boyfriend is and my kids like kind of demand it,
Mm-hmm.
I do think that actually helps me not have that burnout. Like I have to disconnect from my job or my work and sit down and just like have a conversation. And I'm not talking about like a 3-hour conversation with one of my kids, right? Because they have some stuff to talk about, and I can't just be like, all right, your time's up. You know, no, you got to be there for them. Yeah. So yeah, just being like very adaptable. I'm not a super schedule-y person. I don't know if anybody does Myers-Briggs tests or whatever. INTP is what mine is. So it's very like go with the flow. Like, what time is it? What day is it? I don't know. Like, it's,
Who knows?
So that it can require actually quite a bit of like reminders in my phone. Like I literally set like 5 alarms in the morning to wake up.
Yeah.
Like snooze, and I'm hitting snooze for an hour sometimes. Like it's almost ridiculous, but that's kind of how I got to do it. And I do set alarms for like picking up my kids from school. I have to set alarms for every single meeting. Like I use the alarm app all the time, and I do different songs for different things. So I have like the office ringtone for anything that's like work related. I have like a Get Up Imagine Dragons song ringtone for like in the morning that wakes me up. It's like Wake Up's like his song Wake Up. It's so funny. It's funny. It's really funny.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so alarms are huge. And then I do the block out the schedule. So I use Google Calendar, and I just put blocks in my schedule. I use Calendly to like set appointments to talk to people that are like on top of that. When I make appointments in my calendar, I share, I'll add email addresses of my own kids like on the events so that they get invited too. Otherwise we just don't always talk about it and make sure we're scheduling and like reminding people, right? So I just have to basically automate a lot of the scheduling things, since that is not my forte.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're all good. But yeah, there are tons of resources to kind of help you like at least think it all out. I mean, like sometimes like I just do like, if I don't have time to like really schedule everything out, I just at least list it down, and then it kind of like makes it a little bit easier.
Yes. And kudos to whoever designed the confetti in Canvas, because oh my gosh,
dopamine.
Like, and I'm not saying it works 100% for me. Literally works probably like 50%, but it works. Yeah. It's going to level me up because I'm like, I want that confetti, if at all possible. Which isn't always possible.
I know sometimes it's not, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I will say I've met a lot of students around that have been really kind of stressed out about deadlines and schedules, and not to like bring that down to where it's not important. I mean, I do recognize and respect this whole like on time, show up all the be there, and reliability and all of that. But as long as it's not to the point of like it's damaging your health. And I really do think in the past where it'd be like, oh, I'm submitting this assignment late, and shame, and so like I don't even deserve to talk to the teacher to see if there's a way out of this. I actually think professors want to help you, and they know you care, and I it's worth a try. Yeah. So 100% I would recommend a book called Rejection Proof. I don't even know the author. Just Google it. It's got like, I think it's red. I don't remember actually. But
we'll put it in the description.
But yeah, so yeah, maybe we'll throw it out in the description. But it was recommended to me by the honors program when I was in that, and I really appreciated the book, and it had a lot just to kind of. The biggest takeaway I think is realizing that people really want to help you. Like, people don't like to say no, and if you can kind of tap into that, it's like a warp code. If you're playing like Mario Brothers, you know, you get like that warp code. You find the little area where the pipes can send you to world 7 when you're stuck in 3.
Yeah.
Like, literally, that book is that. Okay. It's a warp code.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll put that in the description.
Okay.
Go check it out. I wanted to kind of go back to like one of the things you were talking about, where like you're scheduling that time for yourself, or at least, you know, having that time for yourself, as well as like for your kids and stuff like that. One of the most important things to know, I'm not a mom, I will say that, but I have some siblings with some kids.
Yeah.
And if anybody's like told me anything, like the biggest thing is making sure you're not living just for your kids.
Oh.
Because that's where like it kind of comes down to. And it works for like friendships as well as like single people. Like, if you are taking care of yourself and you're working toward yourself, most of the time everything kind of falls into place, where you're able to give more time to your friends or give more time to your kids. Like, you're able to also set an example as well, like where you're taking care of yourselves. They're like, oh well, like I need to take care of myself too. Like, it just kind of comes full circle, and like that's like really important. And that's not to say forget your kids exist. It's more of just
man.
Like,
yeah,
making sure that you're not like just living to like take care of them, because it gets hard to like, you sometimes get into that like tunnel vision where it's like, I have to do this and this and this for them, and or even like with your friends, like I have to like be there for my friends, I have to be there for this, and then that causes you to kind of fail on yourself, which then you can't help anybody after.
Yeah, I would love to add on to that a little bit. So I have a little mini story, but first I'll say, I think with that, what's been most helpful, because okay, so I was coming from stay-at-home mom for a long time. I was a military wife and stay-at-home mom, so it wasn't just like have family here to help you, you know, raise your kids. I was literally like, it was me and my kids. I was bringing my kids to my gynecology appointments. Like, it was like no babysitter, kids all the time. And if my husband got called like overseas or on TY, you know, then it's just me 24/7 with them all the time. So it definitely, it gave me this attitude of, I don't ask for help. Like, everything is on me. So I plan everything around whether or not I can also bring my children. And it made them very adaptable, though, I will say. But yeah, so when I got divorced and then came to school, and then I had things like, oh, I have class now, I have to go study, I have a meeting. And it's so weird. It is a weird feeling of, oh, I'm not the person now who's there supporting whoever has the most important priority going on. And even that, when I was a stay-at-home mom, it was like, the priority was, of course, like my husband's work. And then it was his extracurricular activities, and it was my kids' extracurricular activities, but literally it wasn't mine, right? So I was just kind of like facilitating, helping them all get to their things, you know, lessons, sports, all kinds of things. And so it did feel weird to like be like, hey, this thing is important, I need to do it, because I would only choose things that could adapt around those things.
Right.
That was what I thought I needed to do. So then, yes, when I came back to school, I then could not negotiate. I'm like, no, I have to do this thing. And for me, interestingly, I can't even talk. Oh my gosh. Yes, that word. Enough. Me thinking about my daughters and like what kind of behavior I'm giving an example to do, you know, like I'm setting this, like whatever I do, they'll most likely see, oh, that's what you do, you know?
Right.
That kind of changed my framework quite a bit, because I really did start. So you were just talking, I know this, like, okay, how does this connect? You were talking about like, oh, I feel like I need to like take care of my people, like my kids, my friends, my nieces, nephews, children, whatever it is, whatever we feel like we're responsible to those people, those humans. And what if it isn't like actual caretaking so much as it is like showing them what they are capable of too? So I thought, okay, the biggest thing I can do for my kids right now is take care of me the best way I can, so that they will also do that and see that it can be done, right? Because if I'm not taking care of myself, all I'm doing, like at the, I'm trying to running around taking care of them and not taking care of myself. Number one, they just think that's now their job too. They run around taking care of everyone else, but not themselves. I do not want that. And I did get diagnosed with the autoimmune condition, like right around the same time. It was, that's what happens. It's
All
like
of
a
the above.
tornado of crap. And it was rheumatoid arthritis, and I had it come on really quickly. It was like within a month. I went from doing CrossFit every day, working out. I was like in really good shape and felt really good. Didn't know I was having some emotional
Yeah.
stuff happening to, whatever, like perfectionism, anxiety, things that you just shelf for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was happening, but that's building up. And then when I got this sickness and then got diagnosed with this like rapid onset rheumatoid arthritis, I was just like, what? And instantly that thought was like, I'm going to be treated differently. People are going to see me as a burden. Like, this is so terrible. Because I saw life as more of like, I don't know if I was really this kind of person, but like it was a little bit rat race like, right? I was trying to keep up. I was trying to catch up with what? Like something.
Right.
And I couldn't ever get there. So that just like, life took out a 2x4 and knocks you down, and you're just like, I was just barely feeling like I could maybe
I was almost there.
get there. And no, you can't, Lizzie. Knock you down.
Yeah.
Like, and I could barely walk. I could barely dress myself. I couldn't like make my bed or sweep, or like it hurt to even just drive. My son was getting potty trained, and I couldn't like take his like pants undone or whatever, or like try to buckle him in his car seat. Like those things are just so painful. So I was like downing like ibuprofen like crazy. And then so I did a whole bunch of research, and I ended up like finding a way to not have to take the route of like, the recommended route is taking like lifelong chemotherapy. Like it's like low dose chemotherapy to make your immune system relax more, so that it's not attacking you, they say, even though I'm against that kind of like explanation now. But yeah, because I'm like super, if anybody is interested in getting way more into the health side of it, I got way into the health side of it. So I did successfully learn how to manage my disease with nutrition and exercise and things like that. Meditation, yoga, paleo diet mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So,
good
and
stuff.
it's very successful. Like I don't take any medication for
Yeah.
the sickness. So it's very cool. But,
That's awesome.
but yeah, so that saying like, like you can't do everything is kind of a blessing too, because maybe I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when you don't have to do everything perfect, then you can do everything you want still.
try
I
it,
think,
yeah.
it's like, it's, I don't know, kind of cool.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on here and telling all of your story. And hopefully this kind of gives you a little bit like of an example. Like, not all of us are perfect. None of us are perfect.
Not at all.
And like it's fun. It's really nice. Like, go try things. Go do something. Don't be afraid and confined by people, whether it's judging or anything. And like chase like for feelings, like, cuz like you only have one life. You might as well like, you want to kind of look back on your life and see everything that you try to do rather than like hiding from it. And I think that's like, even me thinking back to high school, I wish I tried a few more things rather than being like afraid of like being judged by anybody. But yes, thank you for coming and telling your story. I've always loved your powerhouse stories. It makes me feel very motivated to
Thank
keep my life
you.
going. And hopefully you guys feel the same, got some inspiration from there. I will put that book in the description, and you're welcome to go see our other more specific episodes on our website, as well as anything else. And we will catch you next time, Wolverines. See ya.
Ciao.